be advised that this recorded webinar has been edited from its original format, which may have included a product demo. To set up a live demo or to request more information, please complete the form to the right. Or if you are currently not on CSC Global, there is a link to the website in the description of this video. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Risk Mitigation When Your DNS Service is at its End of Life. My name is Christy DeMayo-Ziegler, and I will be your moderator. Joining us today is Bobby Huff. Bobby Huff is CSC's Product Sales Engineer for Security Services. Bobby is responsible for product demonstrations and advising enterprise organizations in North America on digital risk and preventative measures to secure digital assets outside the firewall. During his 12-year career, Bobby has acquired a wealth of experience in cybersecurity technology, focusing on public key infrastructure, domain name systems, security socket layer, digital certificates, and transport layer security, as well as domain registrar security capabilities. Bobby attended the University of Maryland College Park and earned a master's degree in digital forensics and cyber investigations. And with that, let's welcome Bobby.
For today's webinar, we'll cover a range of topics relating to global enterprise business and the upcoming end of life for Dyn DNS customers. Some of these topics will include what's happening in the industry, Dyn's updates after the Oracle acquisition, what does end of life mean for customers, staying or going, finding a new vendor, and prioritizing 100% uptime and security focus. We found that DNS administration can be somewhat of a complex topic, and for that reason, we always like to start by explaining the importance and functionality of DNS. Machines or computers can communicate with each other using an established set of rules known as network protocols. The Internet is composed of different networks around the globe, and each machine is identified by a unique numerical digit known as Internet Protocol or IP addresses. IP addresses are used by machines and humans as sort of a home address, so that destinations are identifiable and requests can resolve. To facilitate the use of the Internet with human recognizable domain names instead of IP addresses that is made up of a string of numbers, the Domain Name System, or DNS for short, is a network protocol that delegates name servers to each domain so that domain names can be translated into IP addresses. Most of the time, when a human types a domain name into an Internet browser search bar, they don't really know that the domain name resolves to an IP address. But if DNS were to go down, websites, web-based services would be unreachable, such as APIs, applications, email, voice over IP, authentication, and cloud integrations. Now that we understand why DNS is so important, let's provide some historical background on DNS for enterprise customers. On this slide, you will see a timeline of important dates. Starting on November 21st, 2016, it was announced that Oracle had reached an agreement to acquire Dyn DNS. Prior to this acquisition, the Mirai botnet caused a massive DNS outage that impacted Dyn users as well as causing global Internet disruption. The incident is still discussed today and provides a case study of the need for DNS redundancy. Many industry professionals regarded Dyn as an enterprise-class DNS provider along with VeriSign Security Services. Around October 2018, Neustar Security Services announced that they had acquired VeriSign Security Services, further causing a shakeup to authoritative DNS hosting providers. Following the announcement of mergers and acquisitions, Dyn users received notices over the following years regarding changes to their authoritative DNS hosting services. 2016, Oracle acquires Dyn ZenEdge. 2019, Oracle notifies Dyn ZenEdge customers of target retirement date for May 31st, 2020. 2020, end of life extended to new target retirement date of May 31st, 2022. 2022, end of life extended to new target retirement date of May 31st, 2023. In advance of this date, Dyn users have been notified they will need to migrate to Oracle Cloud Infrastructure or lose DNS service. As part of the end-of-life announcement, Dyn users were also notified that Oracle would be making changes to their service offering, and customers would be potentially disrupted by losing key DNS capabilities, including supporting external name servers, assigning zones to support DNSSEC, dropping support for secondary DNS status notifications and zone publish notifications, as well as dropping support of advanced services notifications for monitoring agent changes. For customers impacted by the loss of DNS-based services, it is imperative to define business-critical criteria when considering migrating authoritative DNS hosting services to another provider. Migrations often carry some element of risk, and to best determine risk tolerance or appetite, having project timelines and measurable goals often aid in reducing risk. As we are quickly approaching end of life for dying DNS services on May 31st, 2023, current customers can use this window for vendor selection, which includes shortlist providers, negotiate pricing and terms, complete the legal requirements of setting up a new supplier and contract. Migration planning, which can be used to inform and educate internal stakeholders, and the actual migration itself, which includes account creation and staff training. When evaluating potential vendors, it is important to consider the needs of global enterprise business versus providers that also serve to retail consumers. The gold standard for DNS providers focuses on maintaining business continuity and disaster recovery. As such, we have classified reliability, which is composed of 100% uptime guarantee, redundancy, anycast, global nodes for dispersion, monitoring and failover, and 24/7 365 customer support. Speed, which is composed of geolocation and weighted load balancing. And focus, which includes DDoS protection, web filtering, DNSSEC, regular security awareness staff training, and must be accredited secure technology and infrastructure as the factors for vendor selection that should be prioritized for enterprise customers. For the next phase of DNS evaluation, we will focus on migration planning. Proper planning usually starts by building an awareness of the market and asking questions on internal configuration needs, which includes a complete accounting and inventory of domains, primary versus secondary and what that breakdown looks like, who will provide the zones, in what format, or logins to retrieve the zones, is DNSSEC secured, URL forwarding, registry lock, child zones, reverse zones, and zone format, such as bind or non-bind. For the planning of the migration, it is important to define measurables such as what batches do they want to do, low risk, defensive first and main, or critical last, and zone freeze phases. Some of the understated considerations can also include communication, defining budget, including project team insight, and business sign-off. Who signs the zone load summary, which is required before final modifications? When it is time for the actual migration of authoritative DNS hosting services, it is important to note the steps vary for both modifications and transfers. As the registrar for many of our clients' domains as well as DNS, CSC is uniquely positioned to provide valuable expertise on lowering risk during migrations. From a client's perspective, when doing a modification, you will need to prepare to provide dying DNS login details, placing a zone freeze, and providing zone sign-off. And for transfers, clients will need to action by providing dying DNS login details, providing current registrar login details, placing a zone freeze, and providing sign-off. CSC will provide corresponding actions, and it is important to note our projects team can handle DNS modifications from dying DNS to CSC DNS in bulk. The steps mentioned previously were mostly of a technical nature, which can lead to confusion from a business perspective. As a business, it is important to prioritize uptime, redundancy for business continuity, as well as risk mitigation and disaster recovery. To develop a high-level business dialogue around these subjects, it may be important to ask, is now the right time to consider consolidating your DNS portfolio with a single provider? It may be important to also consider objections for holding off the migration, including, it's the first consolidation after years of not being organized centrally. It's the consolidation of a new acquisition or business unit. It's the consolidation of a new product that went rogue on launch outside of an existing centralized policy. The evolution of authoritative DNS hosting has led to the development of advanced traffic management. These features and functions live above standard resource records found in many of the zones for domains today. Some of the advanced functionality, which may vary amongst providers, includes DNSSEC, which authenticates DNS responses, automatically signs and manages zones, and guarantees 100% uptime. DNS monitoring and failover, which is the automatic monitoring and backup of functions that ensures web presence availability without tying failover options to data centers. Geolocation identifies DNS queries to the city level. It differentiates responses to DNS queries to optimize network performance and reduce costs. Weighted load balancing balances end-user traffic among multiple data centers and optimizes infrastructure. And alias records provide CNAME-like behavior on Apex domains, automatically resolving root domains to one or more A records. CSC's partnership with Neustar Security Services is built on many of the ideas and principles discussed today, along with the additional benefits and protections available to clients depending on the authoritative DNS configuration of their choice. If CSC provides DNS resolution for your domains today, you can be assured your domains and services are hosted on the infrastructure responsible for the longest credible 100% uptime guarantee for over half a decade. This uptime, as well as our comprehensive SLA, is backed by BGP and IP anycast routing schemes to manage billions of global queries a day, 48 nodes across 6 different continents, independent secondary infrastructure for an active configuration, built-in DDoS protection, and 15 DDoS scrubbing centers with over 15 terabits per second of bandwidth ingestion rate to withstand supersized DDoS attacks. In the security world, cybercriminals are always on the lookout for potentially lucrative opportunities to launch an attack. In essence, it's not really a matter of if an incident will happen, it's more about when the incident does happen. Do you have the service and support to respond quickly and provide disaster recovery? Using a security in layers approach, CSC can secure access to DNS and zone files to mitigate DNS hijacking and domain shadowing. Identify which of your domains are mission critical and will require 100% uptime, and identify missing security features for vital domains. Our approach is built on top of a seamless consolidation of your DNS, domain names, and digital certificate workflow processes, which make CSC truly unique amongst the industry. Partnering with CSC for authoritative DNS hosting services provides a range of flexibility in configurations to meet the needs of your enterprise organization. As the needs of global workforces requires uptime and speed, CSC can restore trust by building DNS redundancy into your most critical internet resources. As we wrap today's session, I hope you've gained some valuable insight into enterprise-class authoritative DNS hosting and how this impacts global business today. With DNS being such a critical component in ensuring your online business continuity and disaster recovery planning, can you afford to wait for end of life? Thank you for attending today's webinar. If you still have any questions, please feel free to contact your CSC representative.